Welcome to episode 11 of the Solo Sideline. I'm your host, Connor. Reminder to like, rate, subscribe to the pod on any podcast services. Please engage with me on Instagram or Twitter. My name is the Solo Sideline. I want this podcast to be all sports and no fluff. Some fluff items that didn't make the cut today. The NBA draft was last week, and we already pegged players as a Wemby stopper. Caleb Williams wanted to trademark the word Iceman, but the trademark has initially been refused. He can't get the Madden cover and a cool trademark. It seems to be one or the other. During the NBA draft, there were trades, and a monumental one was agreed to. The Lakers and the Mavericks made a trade regarding second-round draft picks. Hell has frozen over. The bad blood from the Luka trade is over with. I mean, it only took Dallas firing that GM and head coach that were there during that time. But the two teams are doing business again. Woo-wee. Tight End University, or TEU, happened last week, and there was a fun guest appearance by Taylor Swift, who performed her song Love Story with fellow country singer Lainey Wilson. Happy for Kelsey and Swift. Maybe my wedding invitation got lost in the mail. The Buffalo Bills cut the ribbon on their new stadium last week and ushered in the new era. Fans came out and looked at the outside of the stadium, but then they looked at ticket prices for the first game, and the cheapest ticket is $643 on Ticketmaster. Now, it isn't just the stadium that's new. You also have Josh Allen as the quarterback. They've been pretty good the last few seasons by making the playoffs. And they have fun teams visiting like the Chiefs, Patriots, Ravens, and more. And that's why the ticket prices are so expensive. Sticking in the NFL, the top 100 players list, which is voted on by players, is currently being released. We have players from 100 to I think about 85 now. And some of them are already questionable. First off, Bryce Young made his debut at 98. I don't think he deserves to be on the list. It's almost like a pity vote since the Panthers made the playoffs with an 8-9 record. It should be interesting to see where Bo Nix and Sam Darnold place on the list, hopefully both above Drake May, who had an absolute disaster of a postseason. Kawhi Leonard was traded from the Clippers to the Raptors. The most interesting part is that he wanted to go back to Toronto. I only kid about that one, but it is cold. The NBA is investigating the Clippers and Kawhi, though, regarding an endorsement deal with a company called Aspiration, which ended up folding. But Leonard received a $28 million endorsement from them. And there's reports from Pablo Torres that it was a way to circumvent the cap. Not sure how the NBA is allowing this trade to happen with that ongoing investigation, but I'm not the NBA commissioner. The Kawhi tenure, though, in LA was honestly a huge mistake. They never really won anything, and they ended up creating a dynasty, or what could be a dynasty, with the Thunder by trading Shea and a ton of picks for Paul George back in 2019. Now, going on to the quick hitters. The Lakers agreed to an extension with Austin Reeves on what is a 4-year max worth a total of $185 million, which is just over $46 million a year. We all knew Austin was going to receive the max or very close to it, and most likely from the Lakers. It came out afterwards, though, that the Lakers initially offered him $30 million per year, and then Austin felt like that was a little too low, and somehow word got over to the Pistons and then back to Austin's camp that they would offer him the max. I say that word somehow got there since that would be tampering, and tampering is illegal. And no free agent would be able to talk to a team that isn't the team that they currently just played for. So that's very interesting. Definitely tampering is a no-no and never happens. Now, Austin may have felt disrespected, demanded the max money to stay with LA, and also Luka and Reeves are super close, and Luka probably wanted Austin to stay. So that's why the Lakers upped their offer by $16 million to keep Austin. The Portland Trail Blazers owner, Tom Dundon, is making headlines this week, and not for the right reasons. He's drawing a line in the sand that the public's going to fund the $600 million renovation of their stadium, the Moda Center, and that he's not going to contribute to the improvements. Dundon also owns the Carolina Hurricanes, who just won the Stanley Cup Finals. He isn't hurting for money. He bought the Trailblazers for $4 billion, vowed to keep the team in Portland. He said he's taking a hit by paying the taxes and staying in Portland, and that is the extent he is willing to pay. He previously created waves by not paying for the two-way players on the Portland Trailblazers to travel with the team during the playoffs. That practice that all NBA teams do. The Trailblazers also didn't have shirts for their fans during the home playoff games that they had, which is an item most NBA teams do during the playoffs. He recently hired a coach for the team, but then gave the coach a one-year deal with the team option for a second year. Meaning the coach is already going to come in being a lame duck coach, and he may not be able to motivate the players since people know he could be fired at the end of the year. Cheap move after cheap move is not a way to help star players come to your team. LeBron has decided to not return to the Lakers for the upcoming season. He is a true free agent and is honestly the best free agent. Before we speculate where LeBron's going to end up, let's revisit his accomplishments with the Lakers. He's an 8-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA player, led the NBA in assists in 2019 and 2019 to 2020 season, so one season, won the championship, was named Finals MVP when he was the first to ever do that with 3 different franchises. He broke the NBA all-time scoring record, led the Lakers to the playoffs 6 times, and before LeBron joined, they had missed the playoffs the previous 5 seasons, and became the first father-son duo to play together. Those are pretty huge accomplishments, and that scoring record that LeBron broke, no one's going to break it because LeBron's still been scoring since then. Now, there's been a lot of rumors about LeBron returning back to the Cavs this year. A lot of this is pure speculation since we haven't heard anything official from LeBron or his agent, Rich Paul. Now, a few weeks ago, I mentioned a baker who knows an old player, Charles Oakley, and was told LeBron was coming home. Oakley was then later interviewed about it and said he never gave a percentage, but said things could go that way. Then the reports of LeBron feeling slighted, taken for granted by the Lakers. Shams came out and said LeBron and the Lakers haven't had any contract talks yet. We now know he's not going to the Lakers. Then the owner of the Cavs had a public interview, and when asked about LeBron, he said, quote, "Maybe, we will see." Now, the owner of the Cavs, Dan Gilbert, making a public appearance is big since he hasn't really done that in the last couple years. Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report also reported that the chances of LeBron leaving the Lakers is greater than him staying. Now we know that's for sure happening. And LeBron has reportedly joined the Firestone Country Club, which is in Akron, Ohio. We know he has picked up golfing, so maybe he plans to be golfing a good chunk of the time in Cleveland. With a lot of leaks saying it's always smart to figure out who benefits from them. Let's say a leak says a player X is demanding $120 million over 3 years. Who does that leak benefit? Probably the player, by gauging that market interest at that price point, maybe influencing the current team to meet more in the middle. Then the team then leaks an average market contract offer that they offered to then get the narrative to their side. Leaks are always there and should be taken with a grain of salt. You have to really step back and see what side benefits. But I will say, where there is smoke, there's usually fire. Do I think LeBron's going to go back to the Cavs? I don't know. And we'll see. I think the overall team is super balanced. I mean, you have Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. So it's possible. And maybe a sign and trade happens between the Lakers and another team. And I know a few pods back I mentioned that a sign and trade, the player has to get a 3-year deal, and no one's probably going to do that. Now, I did a little bit more research, and that 3-year deal only has to be partially guaranteed, and only that first year has to be fully guaranteed. So a team could actually do a sign and trade, fully guarantee that first year, the first year of the contract, so next season for LeBron, and it could be his last season. He could be playing for 2 more years. So a sign and trade is definitely doable. Now, another rumor that's been circulating is LeBron going to Golden State. Some of you may recall that during the 2015 and 2018 seasons, LeBron with the Cavs and Curry with the Warriors always met in the finals, and Curry won the majority of those matchups, but blew the infamous 3-1 lead, which led the Warriors to recruit Durant to join them, and then rattle off the back-to-back championships. Some may view that as weird, since it would be LeBron joining a rival, but that rivalry doesn't exist anymore, and instead has really grown to be a mutual respect between LeBron and Steph. LeBron legitimately likes Steph Curry, and the feeling is mutual. They have talked about playing with one another before. They've won gold together in the 2024 Olympics, and that team was coached by current Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. And the biggest domino to allow LeBron to come to the Warriors already happened by Draymond Green declining his player option. He's probably going to re-sign with the Warriors for more years, but less annual money, which then would allow Golden State to sign LeBron to a contract of about $15 million. It's been reported that this decision that LeBron's going to have to make isn't solely about who can offer the most money, but where LeBron and his family can find the most happiness. Some can argue happiness is done with winning. So can LeBron find a team that will do a lot of winning and be happy? Or does he just want to play what he called perfect basketball with Steph Curry and the Warriors and be happy? I don't know. I mean, the Warriors are also in California, not too far from LA. He could be with the best shooter in the history of the NBA, a coach that he's battled against but also won with in the Olympics, and play with his good friend Draymond. Or he could be going back to Cleveland with a very well-balanced team of shooters and rim protection and younger players who just made the Eastern Conference Finals. Could it be a dark horse like the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, getting them back to the finals and winning a ring with the 4th franchise? Who knows? If I had to pick a team, I would say it's going to be Cleveland. Play there probably for the next 2 years. Have his farewell tour be not this upcoming season, but the next season, which would be his 25th season overall, which then would mean he plays in the NBA for a quarter of a century. Possibly play with both of his sons, as Bryce could also declare for the 27 draft, and just maybe win a 5th ring with his hometown team that originally drafted him. LeBron does like history, and that would make for an incredible story and documentary similar to The Last Dance. We're also going to stay in the NBA for some other news. We have a couple other trades. The NBA, we had LaMelo Ball traded to the Timberwolves for Naz Reid, a 1st-round pick, and 3 first-round pick swaps, and then 3 second-round picks. The next 5 first-round picks of the Wolves are either traded or a swap, so they get the less desirable one. The Timberwolves have control over their own 2032 first-round pick. That's their first-round pick that they have sole control over. I get this trade from the Hornets' perspective. They ended the season well with Ball, then trading one of their best players when he's at his highest value. They are embracing the young core of Con Knuppel and Brandon Miller by replacing LaMelo Ball with Kobe White. The Hornets also now have assets to trade for a star player or continue to draft and develop to build a contender for years to come. Now, on the Wolves side of things, they are pivoting from their strategy of length, size, and being a lockdown defensive team. They are building around Ant and making sure he's happy and isn't going to be the next star player to ask out. Anthony Edwards was reportedly frustrated when the Wolves traded away Karl Anthony Towns, and they were close. Cat forced teams to have to guard him and therefore couldn't double Edwards. Since Cat was traded and the Wolves didn't have another premier player, most teams would be able to double Edwards and force the role players to beat them. For the most part, though, the Wolves won and the role players did beat them. But then they would hit a ceiling and lose against superior teams or teams that had two bona fide stars in the playoffs. In the last 3 seasons, the Wolves made the Western Conference Finals 2 times, lost both, once to Luka and the Mavericks, who also had Kyrie on that team, and the other to the Thunder that ended up winning the finals. This year they lost to the Spurs, who of course went on to the finals but then lost. LaMelo's a good player, but tends to be a little showboaty. He averages 21 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds in about 31 minutes. He was the best player on a bad Hornets team, and is from the same draft class as Edwards. Edwards went first, then the Warriors messed up and took a center who I don't even think is in the league anymore, and then the Hornets picked LaMelo Ball. Now, LaMelo has a reputation of being a bit of a clown off the court, too. He has a history of reckless driving, even driving over a young fan's foot, had a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against him. He also swerved into oncoming traffic in a Hummer and collided with an oncoming car. During an interview after that car accident, he took a couple questions and then left prematurely before any others could be asked. He isn't just immature, but he's a distraction off the court. If you know basketball, you may know the name LeVar Ball or the Ball brothers. LeVar Ball is his dad, and the Ball brothers are LiAngelo, LaMelo, and Lonzo. And LeVar, their dad, thinks the spotlight is on him at all times. Initially, when the Lakers drafted Lonzo 2nd overall, passing on Jason Tatum, unfortunately, now hindsight's 2020, LeVar famously said he wants all the Ball brothers to be in the NBA playing together, and that Lonzo and the Lakers are going to win a championship. Then when Lonzo was traded for Anthony Davis and part of that AD trade, LeVar went on a rant and said, LeBron's not going to win a championship. Then lo and behold, LeBron wins a championship. And Lonzo's now out of the NBA. LiAngelo never really made it to the NBA. He had some legal issues when he stole from a store in China on a college trip. And then LaMelo actually didn't even play college ball. He played overseas. I would say LaMelo's the most talented brother, though. Now, I think the Wolves' attempt to appease Ant will ultimately lead to Edwards' demand of a trade in the next couple of seasons. He becomes eligible for an extension next summer, and I could see a scenario where he doesn't sign that just to see how the season plays out, see what the Timberwolves do moves-wise, try and shore up some roster deficiencies, which they now have, and if he doesn't like the outcome, he can then demand a trade. Just like what Anthony Davis did, Giannis just did it, and star players have done it before. And they're going to keep doing it. That way they get the most money by the team that they're currently on. They can get the higher paid contract, then demand a trade to a team that's more desirable. Now, Ja Morant was also traded. He has played his last game for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he got traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. He was the 2nd overall pick behind Zion Williamson, who has had his own issues. But the promise was there for Ja, and his first few seasons were very electric. But in March of 2023, it began to fall apart for Ja. He was caught on video with a gun in a Denver nightclub in the early morning hours after losing, not winning, but losing to Denver the previous night. He was suspended for only 8 games. 2 months later in May, in the off-season, he went live and showed himself as a passenger in a friend's car, but he was holding a gun. Ja then met with the commissioner, Adam Silver, and the two had what was called a productive talk, but Ja was then suspended for 25 games to start the next season, because that all happened in the off-season. Prior to these gun incidents, Morant had a checkered past with alleged physical altercation with a teenager at his own house. Ja was accused of threatening mall security, and my favorite In a post-game incident in Indiana, a laser that was attached to a gun pointed out of an SUV at the Pacers team bus. That SUV belonged to Ja Morant. So it may have been Ja, it may have been someone in his vehicle pointing a gun with a laser attachment out of it. Solid stuff. Now, this past season, Morant was suspended by the Grizzlies for conduct detrimental to the team, and then afterwards felt alienated by his teammates. After all these off-court issues, we then have his injury history, his lack of self-awareness, and most teams not needing point guard help. And that had teams wary of trading for him, and Memphis may be needing to attach assets like a first round to trade for him. Now, Morant was traded to the Trailblazers Monday for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. Grant is an established role player who averages about 14 points per game. Chris Murray's been in the league for 3 years and averages 5 points per game. Now, this return is underwhelming for the former second-round pick. If you just take former second-round pick in a vacuum and you get Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, that's a bad return. As a GM, you would probably be fired. The team receiving that second-round pick would be pretty solid, pretty happy about it. But then when you factor in all of Ja's off-court issues, on-court issues, injury history, all that, just not giving up a first to trade him is a win in itself. Now, the Trailblazers do have too many guards on their roster. They have Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and now Ja. Portland does envision starting Ja and Dame together with their up-and-coming star wing player, Denny. I'm not sure how much defense is actually going to be played, but maybe this sets up a bigger move like a Jaylen Brown for some of their young guards Portland has, and that could shore up some defensive holes they have. I'm not really sure the vision that Portland has. Now, talking about star players not wanting to play for your team, we're going to touch on the NHL a little bit. Since I live in the Seattle area, I'm a Kraken fan. And there was some news last Thursday that the Kraken were talking to the agents of Jason Robertson after having a deal with the Dallas Stars agreed to. The Kraken offered a contract that was $15 million per year for 8 years, for a total of $120 million. Robertson, though, declined that deal. This is newsworthy since the Kraken had a similar situation occur during the season when they were targeting Artemi Panarin and offered a contract worth more than $14 million per year over 4 years. He then was traded to the Kings and received a contract of $11 million per year over 2 years. So he took a discount to play for the Kings. Now this means 2-star NHL players opted for less money than the Kraken offered to sign elsewhere. And in some instances, they just didn't really want to play for the Kraken. Part of the issue is the Kraken haven't done anything other than have a miraculous playoff run their second year where 13 players scored double-digit goal numbers, led by McCann, who had 40 goals, which was a career year for him. The Kraken, from the front office perspective, have put the team in a bad spot by not picking a direction for the franchise. You either go all in, trade for proven players to make the playoffs and compete for the cup, or you draft and develop young talent. Instead, they're in the middle, trying to do a bit of both and failing at both. Then, being a coach for the Kraken is tough. So on top of star players not wanting to be there, the front office not really having direction, being able to sell a direction to star players, then you can look at the coaching history. They brought in Dave Haxtell for the first 3 seasons. Then he was fired. You hired Dan Balsma, who was the coach of the Firebirds, which is the Kraken AFL affiliate. He was a one-and-done coach. Then they hired Lane Lambert, who was entering his second year coaching. For those keeping tally, that's 3 coaches in a 5-year span. Players want to come into a stable and winning culture, and the Kraken have neither. That leads to them having to overpay for talent, which is really just average talent. Now, the Kraken did keep the 7th overall pick, something that would have been included in the Robertson deal, and drafted the top-ranked defenseman in the draft Friday night, but still missing that bona fide star player that can score at will. I really think the Kraken are the Cleveland Browns of the NHL, and that's just a sad thing. All right, now we're going to go to the NFL. There's not much going on in the NFL, so I'm going to just touch on OTAs and what we're hearing out of the two teams, the Seahawks and the Broncos. We're going to start with the Seattle Seahawks. They have a mantra called "Run it forward." They don't want the mindset of being the defending champs and going back to back, but rather starting anew with the rest of the NFL and going for the Lombardi Trophy just like everybody else. Ironically enough, though, the Hawks are bringing back 20 of their 22 starters, so they're basically running it back. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak left Seattle to become the head coach of the Raiders. Best of luck to him. He's also following the path of Pete Carroll, another Seahawks coach who then went to the Raiders. Brian Fleury is taking over as offensive coordinator now, and he was previously the running backs coach of the Niners and came from the Shanahan tree as well. So the offense will not be totally revamped, as the base of it's still going to be the West Coast offense and a wide zone running scheme. Right now, it's more just installation period to get the players lined up correctly in the right positions and technique, but Darnold likes what he's seen so far. This also is Darnold's 7th offensive coordinator in his last 7 years. So it's nice that the offense won't be totally revamped and just have new wrinkles here and there. Jackson Smith and Jigba and Darnold look to be in mid-season form, which is to be expected when they aren't pads on and there's no contact. But nonetheless, it is good to see when trying to run it forward. Jadarian Price has been splitting work with Hollina for the first team reps. I really think Price is going to be the workhorse back until Charbonnet is back and built up some more in-game reps. Jadarian's was the backup at Notre Dame, but only because the player in front of him was Jeremiah Love, who went 4th overall. Price could be a sneaky pickup in fantasy football this year and shouldn't be overlooked with the running back committee approach that Seattle tends to use. Rashid Shaheed's going to have more short and intermediate routes and catches this year, and he was going to run some of the routes JSN ran last year. This is to allow the tight ends to feast underneath and open things up for other players in the passing game. I expect him to have a huge year. Spreading the defense out means there's going to be more space for catch and run, and Rashid has breakaway speed, as we know watching him return punts and kickoffs for touchdowns last season. He did re-sign with Seattle for $51 million over 3 years, and now has a full offseason with Sam Darnold and the Hawks offense to get good chemistry. Another receiver I think will have a breakout year is going to be Torrey Horton. I think he's going to take a leap this year, and the team I think really believes in him too, since they didn't add a receiver to the room other than a 6th-round draft pick. Now going over to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have a new play caller this year, Davis Webb. And with Webb calling plays, I expect Evan Ingram to have a better season this year. They were teammates on the Giants together, and Webb was a big reason Ingram chose to sign with the Broncos last offseason. Webb, I think, is going to know how to utilize tight ends better this year. In regards to the dynamic plays, we're going to see Jalen Waddle in orange and blue this year. Only a few practices have been open to the media, but the word from Dove Valley is that Waddle's fast and explosive. Denver's truly lacked an explosive receiver that could take a 5-yard slant route 80 yards to the house, and with Waddle they now have that. The reviews from players make me excited to draft him in fantasy. He can make any route look the same, then use his speed to fly by defenders. Defenses can't double court anymore. Since Waddle's on the other side, he's going to open up the offense for all players, and I could see Bo Nix having a career year. Going to the running backs, Jonah Coleman has impressed so far. Now, it's without pads or contact, but the word is his vision is good and he sees the running lanes and then hits them hard. He'll take some work away from Dobbins, but that's good and could help JK stay healthy for the full season. JK's been doing a little bit of a media tour himself, saying he's not injury prone. It's just been freak injuries here and there. And I think Jonah Coleman stealing some early down work will keep JK fresh for the whole season, hopefully. And then you have RJ Harvey in there to sprinkle some third down pass catching roles. He did score 12 touchdowns last year as a rookie. The touchdown numbers will probably come down, but he'll be your receiving back. Now that brings us to the end of the episode where I'm going to wrap it up. So I hope you enjoyed your time listening to me talk sports, share my opinions and thoughts with all of you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other services. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Solo Sideline. And I hope you tune in next week for the next episode.